Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to our Melee sub with a few new additions. So, after the last video, I've been a little bit unsure of what exactly I want to do with this craft. It's definitely something out of my comfort zone when it comes to the style and the overall build, and yeah, I think what we're going to be doing today is just trying to get the overall shape of the craft and some of the more basic mechanics all working perfectly before we finish it off completely. If we manage to finish this in 2 videos, I will be amazed. So, what is this Ring of Fire, you see? Well, the Ring of Fire there will only activate when the craft is above the water, and it does currently get the craft up to around about 30 to 40 meters per second on its own. This is excluding harpoons. As we've shown in the last video, the harpoons are more than powerful enough to lift this thing out of the water towards heavy aircraft, or to simply move it very quickly towards other seacraft. So I will of course be adding more propulsion for the underwater aspect as well, but I just like the Ring of Fire. Also, it has a really cool effect when it's active, which I do really enjoy. If we slow it down, this is the Ring of Fire. Simple jets rather than the larger jets, just because I like the effect more, with loads of rams all around it, and then it's on the light blocks so that it can go through the armor. This isn't the finished version of the second ring, but it is the basic idea. I do need to armor it up so that explosions don't hit this section quite as easily, otherwise the entire arm goes down. Now thankfully it has been confirmed that the light blocks are far less explosive than I originally thought, so they're easy to destroy, but they don't cause chain reactions as much. So even if one of these arms is completely knocked out, it won't suddenly destroy the entire spin block, basically. So that is pretty nice. But clearly, they need to be more armored up in the center section. But since I don't know where the armor's going to go here, I can't really do that just yet. I'm also thinking about just removing this entire back section and starting from scratch. Now that we're doing this properly, I think we need to start really thinking about the design. Because originally I just made a stick with a bit of AI and a bit of engine. Now I want it to look a lot cooler. I also kind of want it to look maybe a lot stubbier as well. We could make it so that it has a bit of a taper. So imagine this as the widest section, then it goes thinner and thinner and thinner, up until about here. Then everything gets squished on the inside. I don't really know. Doesn't look quite as cool in slow motion, but it is a lot more stable. It always feels so odd to knock off such a huge section, but now we're doing this properly, we do have to do it, well, kind of properly, and the back section was very badly designed. In fact, a lot of this is, so I'm very tempted to just cut maybe from here, then redo the entire back. Then do the front. In fact, maybe I should do the front first, then focus on the back. Now I've said that, that makes way more sense. I think I will be redoing this as well, our lovely spin block in the center. It does work, but it's just not enough for something so heavy. So I think we do need to rely on other things. Game, I don't think you're quite understanding how this works. I mean, it's cool that you're doing this, but considering I'm trying to knock you away piece by piece, this is really quite annoying. What is holding you here? Of all the different things, what is it? See, that bit falls. Am I really going to have to remove all of these piece by piece? I think I am. Okay, so it's this piece which is holding on. I even stopped using the auto destroy there just to see which part was holding on, and there we go, it's falling to its death. Also, finally turned off the noise of the thrusters. Apparently the thrusters make noise even if they have no engine power. Also, yes, I just burped. Rams really don't mind physics, do they? Yeah, just go through the other section, that's fine. I mean, honestly, if it works, I might just leave it. So what I'm trying to do is figure out how we're going to do this cap section at the front. I don't want it to be a closed cap. I don't want it to be all of this front spin block completely capping all of this section so you can't see inside, or at least you can't see the true armor inside, which is starting off here. So I think something like this could be a happy medium. So when this is really going, these are going to cover that area pretty well. So let's put this back to their regular speed. Yeah, anything which tries to get through that gap is going to be absolutely mulched. The problem is, of course, right now that is covering any section where we can fire the harpoons from. So I might need to have a gap here. So either another spin block, similar to this one, or maybe even just using light blocks to separate this from there. The problem is that's going to be so vulnerable to explosives. So, as cool as this is to look at, I still have very little clue how I'm going to do this. It's been about an hour now of me just messing around, adding things, removing things, and just trying to figure out the basic concepts, because this is still very, very new to me, which is honestly quite a lot of fun. The problem is, it's a lot of hours for very, very little footage, which starts to get a bit tedious after a while. So, let's do something. What I think I'm going to do is keep this like this, so we have 4 separate compartments. Those will all move backwards, and that way we can easily defend each area, and we can add internal armor. There's plenty of space for it. It also means we can have storage, engines, batteries, whatever we want. I may go down the route of steam engines, even though I think fuel would be better. I think steam would be easier with so many other things I'm already trying to think about, and then maybe retrofitting it later. It's all about time priority. Priority even. So that is a thing. Then I think on the outside here, we can dedicate a whole section where these two aren't intersecting and going back like this. This could be other propulsion systems. We could have ion thrusters, we could have the actual propellers for underwater. There's quite a lot of things we can add in such a small space, which would really, really help. Then after we leave the main section, there's a lot we can do as well, because then we could expand, we could add some proper wings. We could make it look a bit like a missile, honestly, with the wings on the back, but I don't think I will go down that route. Either way, I need to start just adding stuff and seeing how it works. Now, how far can I go before this intercepts? There we go. And it locks the front section completely off. So that's as far as I can go. That's fine. Let's just map out the borders of the current design. So I think I will be adding a single light block so that we can shoot out missiles, because I do really like this idea here. And because, well, honestly, that will just make us vulnerable to explosions, but I think it will look really cool, and that's kind of the whole point. I don't mind if this thing dies. That's the whole idea. I just want it to look cool whilst it does what it does. And that's not normally my speciality. Okay, how about if I put an extra block here? Either way, I'll be right back once I've actually made some proper progress. Well, I can safely say I've made stronger harpoons. And because of the ability of our craft to move forwards in the air now, we are actually going into space while eating the thing. Oh, come back here. You're not bouncing away that easily. Although I think I may have just run out of fuel. So now we should be going back into the ocean. Oh, I love this craft. This is a good 1 hour again in the future, by the way. As soon as I get more experience with this, I could have probably done all of this in like 10 minutes, but right now, I am learning as I go, and just look at that! Also, this did definitely prove that these little side bits are really, really effective. I was thinking they might be a bit vulnerable, but not quite covering enough, but they definitely work. Although it looks like, yeah, we have lost the thruster pieces, though, at least 2 of them. So they still need to be worked on, although, to be fair, I haven't changed them yet. Oh, look at that! That's just perfectly carved into it. The fan there trying to keep us aloft. That's just so weird. Okay, back to figuring things out. Hello, Medrengard. And unlike last time, it can actually stay in the air and thus keep on hitting it until it goes into the water. Now, when this is far heavier, which will be very soon, it will also be able to drag things under a lot more effectively. Now what we could do is actually have reverse thrusters and reverse propellers to try and keep the melee craft in the water, but honestly, this is just way more fun. Hey, getting away via explosions is cheating. It's in the rulebook. This is such a weird thing to see, though. It's like a parasite. It's more like a lamprey at this point than a kraken or something. If I'm thinking of the right name there. The internal rotor blade has also been slightly increased in size, and that really helped just then. A few issues still when it gets close enough to the target, but all of these I think can be fixed. Ultimately, right now, it's way more efficient than the last one. And it's nowhere near done yet. That looks really odd. No context. You're not getting any context about this particular fight. You won't even know what I was actually testing. Okay, so a little bit later yet again, and this is what we have. This should be surfacing in a second, because I'm just messing with the PID system. It looks very odd, I have to admit, but I actually really like it. It looks like a combo of a tooth and some kind of space station, but I'm happy enough, you know, a tooth with the roots and stuff. You know, the more I look at it, the less I feel like it looks like a tooth, but oh well, I'm going with that anyway. And so, right now, all we need to do is finish off the PID and add some regular movement, and technically it's done. But it isn't done, obviously, it's just done enough. I also need some altitude control on top. Right now it can get to about here, but then it always overshoots. And honestly, I think I would rather have it a little bit lower than this anyway. So the idea is, what's going to happen is when it encounters an enemy, if the enemy is above 0 in terms of its altitude, it will swap its PID and start to pitch upwards. By pitching upwards, it will naturally breach the surface because of moving forwards using its propellers. The naval AI is set to try and get into melee range with anything, so it will always be going forwards, it will never stop. So it will force itself to breach through the water, then the missiles can simply get to the enemy without any issue. How it's going to target waterborne targets is, I think what I'm going to do is have two separate missile systems. I was thinking about different ways of doing this, and one of them will be carrying missiles and will only fire when it itself is above 0 and if the enemy is above 0 as well, and then I'll have a second system which will be torpedoes, also carrying harpoons obviously, and those will only fire at enemies if we're below 0 and the enemy is 0 or below. So actually with the altitude I'll probably swap that to 20 or 30 meters in the air, otherwise we're going to be firing both at the same target. But in terms of staying still in the water, it is a functional sub. I think I might do a submarine tutorial soon, just because I've learnt a lot from this, and a lot of people ask me how you get subs to work. I actually find them not the most difficult things in the world. I find aircraft to be a little bit more difficult, but honestly a lot of the ideas are the exact same. It depends on which systems you use. Either way though, I'm getting really happy with this craft, and it's starting to look a little bit sci-fi, which I approve of as well. So, let's do that PID weirdness. Okay, let's test this out. All I want to see is the craft basically changing its pitch. That's all this test is for. Yep, the back rotors are changing it, so now we should be forcing ourselves to breach the surface. If we continue forwards, yes we have, which means it was much easier for the missiles to work, and then, hello, welcome to your doom. I've also set it so this only happens if the enemy is within 1,000 meters of the sub. Otherwise it'll start doing that and flipping way too early when the enemy is significantly further away. And there we go, with the enemy gone, we are now resetting and we should go back to how we were. Yeah, looks like we're doing it just right. Absolutely perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And then we stabilize where we were. Excellent. Can you move, by the way?
And fly with fleet.
Just move somewhere for me.
Moving out.
Okay, just making sure. God, you're slow. Might consider an internal rotor. We do have a little bit of space in the center, because that is not very fast. It's actually faster in the air right now than in the water. Though, to be fair, being underwater, the only reason we even want that is just because it makes us less vulnerable to things like lasers and advanced cannons. And we probably will go a lot deeper than this as well, probably about 100 meters under. Right now we're only at 20, just to be sure we're safe. It doesn't look like we're at 20 below, but that's because it's from the center of this craft. Now up to 12 meters per second, still not quick, but the idea is we are now using some ion thrusters, just something I don't normally use, so I thought I'd give them a go, and they're doing okay. You could definitely do this a lot faster, but I think they look kind of pretty, honestly. And the upside is these also work in the air, so they're not only a propeller, but they also will work once we're airborne. They're also quite space efficient, which is very, very nice indeed. I could also have some over here, because I'm now about to start armoring up this front section, which is like the last thing to do in terms of the armor, and then I just want to see how fast we can get this thing going without using more and more rotor blades, because right now I'm kind of sick of using them, honestly. I've just been using them so much. Just putting these on H, because that's how I've set them up before. Did I do this? Nope, I did do it correctly. Just for a second, I was derping up. Better. Not great, but better. But of course the harpoons do improve our speed. This is just for getting in range. Still could use a bit more, though. When this thing grabs hold of the smaller targets, it's just the best thing in the world. Hello, Atlas. You're being a test dummy for us. Okay, yep, it's changing its pitch so that it can start getting out the water, which it is doing. Oh, it just bounced it. We could have easily made this a craft which stays in the water. It has reverse thrust and drags things to its depth. Well, not to its depth, but to its depth and to its depth. But there's something about this which is just, to me, way more satisfying. I will do the other version at some point, though. Don't worry. For those who want to see that, it will happen. But for now, I just love seeing this thing body slam aircraft. There's something about body slamming an airship which is just... it's just lovely. At this point, I now realise that because of the internal rotor and the thrusters combined, when they're both pointing upwards, this thing doesn't actually have to wait for the harpoons to go airborne. Which is not intentional. I don't know how I feel about this. I may need to limit the thrusters. Otherwise, this will happen every time. But at the same time, this just appearing out of the water and acting like a sub beforehand, and then suddenly, what looks like an evil ice cream cone starts coming towards you. Yeah, it's not particularly pleasant for the enemy. They're doing a dance. Wait, how far did that go? Whoa, we actually sent it to space. Oh wait, we have ion thrusters. We can totally be a spaceship. We're just playing keepy uppy at this stage. So against very light enemies, it does run the risk of doing this. Yeah, I might have to limit the thrusters a lot. Though saying that, we still haven't added all of the armor here to the sides and on the back, so this thing will still be increasing in weight significantly. I say as we go to space and become the spacecraft we always were meant to be. Yeah, I think I've gone a bit far here. I think I'm losing some of the original charm of the craft. Though, as you can see, without the internal rotor, we do instantly sink. It's only the rotor plus the thrusters which allow us flight, because right now all of them are still online. The thrusters are always on. There's no indication of the enemy. They are always completely on 100%. So the fact it's sinking means it does need that rotor blade. So it's definitely not flying well. Okay, let's get back to armoring up then. I kind of now know perhaps a little bit of lore about this thing. It looks like an abandoned killer drone, just some kind of drone slowly trawling the sea. Anytime something gets close by, all of its weapons activate. It changes its pitch, it activates its torpedoes, and then it goes directly towards the target, hopefully destroying it. Upon destroying it, it simply returns to the ocean, everything resets back to normal, and it goes back to being, well, what it is currently. I could even have several lights on the front. Currently you can see a blue hue, which changes red when an enemy's in range. I kind of feel like that just because of how slow it is, how... Honestly, to me, it seems menacing, because it's just under the surface, moving very slowly, these blue ion thrusters slowly propelling it forwards. But then as soon as it locks onto prey, it goes into the air, and it's a lot quicker. Also, judging by the spin blocks, that's either lag, or they are actually snagging on something. They can do that. Though I think that's probably lag right now. I have been playing it for a while now, let's say. And from the depths, particularly in the sandbox mode, it seems to get laggier and laggier the more you play. So, I'm going to quickly reset the game. I'm actually really liking how it looks, though. It has definitely grew on me, and I'm really hoping you people agree as well. Just going to do this little bit of armor underneath, and I'll reset, and I'll be right back, hopefully with some final changes of the day. Although I do think we will have to come back to this at least once more to finish off everything. It still has no shield, it has no detection system. I still want it to have some kind of EMP weaponry, because I think that just fits the theme. Even if we go with the sci-fi drone theme, then that still fits them. Take down the opponent, absolutely paralyze it, and then devour it. It could even be in the lore that it's self-sustaining, so any damage it does, it then simply uses the damage and the debris to repair itself. Maybe that's its mission, to finally repair itself. I don't know. Maybe I've just been playing a bit too much Stellaris in the background, as my stammer forces me to stop talking. Whilst I was messing around a second ago, I just accidentally turned on the thrusters permanently, and although they are giving us no bonuses, that looks awesome underwater. So I am so tempted to keep that on permanently. The problem is we are using steam engines, which as usual are set up so when the battery is above a certain percentage, it simply turns off. And with this constantly burning power, we never actually get to use that, so we're always burning materials. But I think it might be worth it purely for the light show. And if we increase the speed a little bit, maybe by adding a couple more ion thrusters, or just a few more propellers. In fact, if I do fleet move... Oh yeah, that looks awesome. Okay, yep, we're leaving it. I don't care. We can always change it later. It's literally one button I need to swap over. Sadly can't see it from above the water though, but when you're underwater it definitely adds a lot more to it. I think I'm going to add some lights to it as well, some like very dim blue lights, make it look a bit more sci-fi-esque. The sub now has the very basic ability to actually turn, which is remarkably nice considering we do need to actually get to the enemy. I completely forgot about turning for quite a while there, which is a little bit silly of me, it must be said, and I think at this point I am going to call it for the day now, because I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to make a load of mistakes and just doing things lazily, because I'm getting a little bit tired. So, thank you so much for watching. At the moment, I think I am going to probably call this the Kraken, because everyone seems to want me to call it the Kraken, but I'm not sure. I was almost completely set on that name before the start of this episode, but then I remembered we do have the Kraken over here, which is a ship from the Deepwater Guard, so there's already a Kraken in the game. But also, we're starting to look more droney and more sci-fi-like. We still act like a Kraken, but we're changing the style quite dramatically, and there's still a lot more to do in terms of making these a bit more flush, adding some armor around the propellers and the rotors, adding shields, which might be visible, I don't know yet. A lot of stuff like that, maybe even some simple lasers, just so we can do a bit more damage to the enemy, because although rams are awesome, they can be a tad unreliable. Well, with that, thank you so much for watching. There will be at least one more episode with this coming up, although I might work on something else in between then, if I don't get enough ideas, but I will be going back to this fairly soon. So thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff, helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. Also, a lot more destruction in the next episode. Bye-bye.